America's original music.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it all north of here near the shopping mall. Ooh, where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old, or just me? Did all my friends get old, or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told, or just me?
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. I'd like to thank John Cook, who wrote our original theme song for our show called Old Town Cleveland. And I will mention that not only did he write that, he also wrote the music for our documentary Caney Creek. He wrote all the original music for that. And Monday morning, we was informed that the Caney Creek documentary won the Award of Distinction by the East Tennessee Historical Society as the #1 history project in East Tennessee for 2013. So congratulations to Will and the rest of the people who done that. And so and it will be shown again on May 9th at the museum, and then at May 19th up at what Baptist church is that?
First Baptist.
First Baptist Church in Polk County, right there in Benton. Go through the traffic light and take a right at the next right on 314. It's right there on your left. So you'll hear more about that. So Deb's not with us today, so I've got my son-in-law, Dustin Coleman. Good morning, Dustin. How you doing today?
Good morning. Feels good to have the headphones back on.
Oh, yes. So
Been a while.
Dustin used to do good sports here, but college has got in his way now. So,
Yeah.
so
Full-time job in itself. So
Yeah, that is. So today we have Diane Ravens and Kim Brady. Diane's with Appalachian Bees up in Benton on Old Federal Road.
In Ocoee on Old Federal.
Right.
Correct.
If you're going up that way, you take a right on Old Federal,
Yes.
and you're down on the right, down about
Half a mile.
half a mile. I saw one of that. And then Kim Brady, and your official title is Agricultural Agent, Extreme Commander. What is your exact title, Kim?
Well, we've gone through some different things lately, and
You work for the state then, don't you?
Well, no, actually, it began as called the Cooperative Extension Service. Actually, we're federal, state, and county funded, so it's a cooperative effort. But several years ago, we changed our name to UT Extension. We were known as the Agricultural Extension Service for years, and we changed our name to UT Extension to kind of go along with some of the things they changed at the university. Actually, we're part of the College of Agriculture, but there's 4 different divisions of the College of Agriculture. You've got the teaching, you've got the vet college, you've got the experiment station, you've got extension. So we're the 4th
I thought you were
group
just going,
of
hey,
that.
you.
Yeah, but my title correctly, I guess, is county director, but we're all known as extension agents now.
Now, where do you just cover Bradley, or do you cover more? I can't.
Well, it kind of depends on what it is. Hamilton County they have a horticulture agent, but they don't have an agricultural agent. So if they get a pesticide question or something about beef cattle or something like that, sometimes they'll have them call us. So we cross county lines quite a bit, not more so probably now than we used to.
And one other thing that you do, you teach a master gardener's class every year, and I haven't got to it yet. I am coming, but it seems like every year I have conflicts in my schedule, but that's something I want to do. It's on my bucket list.
We're going to get you in there. We have just completed actually it was a 16-week course. Normally we'll average 14 to 16 weeks. We'll go one night a week, and we'll just talk about home horticulture each night. We'll start out with soils and botany, because everything deals with plants and soils, and then we'll go through vegetables and tree fruit and annuals and perennials and woody ornamentals and insects and diseases and wildlife, and we just cover a lot of different topics. So just for homeowners.
I need something like that because I can't even grow weeds.
Right.
And when you can't grow weeds, you know you're really bad.
Yeah, and then we get part of the Master Gardener program is then we get you involved in the organization,
Right.
and part of the organization's function is to give back community hours or volunteer hours,
I
helping
think you have some
others
little
and-
community gardens that have around there.
Absolutely,
That's
and
great.
and right now they've got a community garden and project going with the juvenile center over.
Oh, that's great.
And it's just kids are just loving it. The organization's really benefiting from it, and so are the kids.
Don't you wish you'd listened to your grandfather about the stuff that
Oh,
when,
yeah.
when you had to grow food to eat, back in those days,
Right.
I wish I listened because they always had food.
I just wished I'd wrote down like you're saying all the time, write these things down, because I was out the other night feeding, and guess the first thing I heard was whippoorwill. And Grandpa used to say, when you hear the whippoorwill sing, then you can start, planting your garden and doing everything like that. So
I heard somebody say, well, the pink moon is out. And I said, well, I knew what a blue moon was. That's but I didn't know what a pink moon was. So I had to read it's the first full moon in April that this would indicate spring now.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the pink moon.
And Betty, it was out last night.
Oh, wasn't it beautiful?
Yes, sir.
It sure was. Diane, when did you get involved in bees?
It's been over 20 years.
Did you get stung or what happened?
No. Basically bought a house where a gentleman sold honey and had bees for a long time. He was well known in the community and had 14 decrepit hives falling apart, and didn't know what to do, so I started reading in books about bees. And once I started reading, I was hooked. They're so fascinating.
How many hives do you have now?
I usually run about 50 to 100 hives. Yeah.
And an average hive has how many bees?
Oh, a good colony, 60 to 80,000.
That's a lot of bees.
It's a lot of bees.
So you got 600,000 bees running around your house?
Millions.
And then you process the honey right there in the building outside beside your house.
Correct. I store it in barrels because 5-gallon buckets are not feasible anymore.
That's good. And I know if you want to go to her website, and you can order honey right off her website.
Correct.
It's honeybeesrock.com. Isn't that a great name? Honeybeesrock.com.
I like it.
What's one thing people don't know about bees that they should know?
Well, some of the elements that they produce and their benefits. Something that people have never heard about is propolis. Propolis is nature's strongest antibiotic, natural antibiotic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a resin that the bees add their enzymes, their salivas, and beeswax and pollen, and they've used that for centuries, for thousands of years, as a healer. We used resins before antibiotics as healers, and that is one of the resins.
Now, how does a person do you sell propolis, or can people buy that and eat it?
You
or?
can buy it in health food stores. I do not sell it. I harvest it and I make an extract, and I use that in my products for your skin, in my all natural skincare products. It's difficult to harvest. It's difficult to work with. That's why not many people do it. It's used widely in Europe. I had a gentleman from Bosnia recently purchased some products from me, and he noticed my propolis, and he said as a young boy in Bosnia, his father used to give him propolis, the extract, on a sugar cube to keep the kids all healthy.
Also, I've seen somewhere before, and I'm a fountain of useless information, but that they use bee stings for arthritis or something.
Absolutely. Apitherapy, yeah, the medicinal use of bee products, and I've actually stung myself and other people for certain ailments. There's a real interesting book entitled Bees Don't Get Arthritis, and it's a man's journey across the United States. Thousands of miles he traveled, talking to beekeepers and other people who have had either an accident in the bee yard or take bee pollen or propolis for certain things, or honey. Honey has natural antibiotics. They give it to race dogs and horses, if they've had an issue with their back or knee or whatever, they've been taking bee pollen, bee stings. They had an accident and got multiple stings, and then they don't have an issue anymore. So, bees are here for a reason.
I actually seen them take bees like in a joint, and they had the bee sting them, and then
Yes.
I go, seemed like a painful way. Of course, now I've had a cortisone shot in my knee. A bee sting would have been nice.
A bee sting, well, the knee is a very sensitive area. Even when
Yes.
I get stung in the knee area, it's very sensitive. I stung a gentleman for over 6 months in his knees every 4 days, 4 stings in each knee. And when I get stung in my knee, I think, I don't know how he took it. I don't know how he did it.
Well, if you ever had that needle go all the way down inside the middle of your knee, and then they wiggle it and shoot that juice in there, and you go, and 30 minutes later, that's like WD-40 in your knee, though. It really works good. It's just going in is the painful part,
Bee venom is makes your body produce natural cortisol. So it's supposed to be better than a cortisone shot. It brings circulation to the area, too.
I just can't convince myself, say, Dan, how about getting me stung today?
We need to
Yeah.
find a better way to let the bees sting you or something. Or can we reinvent that?
I don't know. I just pick up a bee by her wings and I position it where I want the sting, as vertical as possible. And you sting your trigger points, where you're having issues. And it works.
I'm
it
about
works.
willing to try anything.
I know a man who stings when he gets a headache. He takes a bee and he stings the back of his neck.
You get stung a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I'd be in the wrong business if I complained about it.
Kim, let me ask, the question I want to ask you real quick is, I try to grow something different every year in my little tiny garden. This year I'm growing Brussels sprouts. I've never grown Brussels sprouts. I didn't even know what they looked like growing, so I'm sitting learning from that. But what plants are native to America that here, and what has been brought in? I mean, there's probably thousands brought in, but what was truly the native plants?
Well, I'd say it was probably everything was brought in at some point.
Really?
But when you look at corn, the maize that was brought in by the Aztec Indians and everything, but what we've done is just modified a lot of things. Like Brussels sprouts, maybe they're just baby cabbages as far as I'm concerned.
Little cabbages,
yeah, baby cabbages. So, but a lot of things like that, we've used throughout the years that we've. That this kohlrabi, if you've ever seen what it looks like a turnip, but it's growing above ground. And, I don't know where those come from either. I don't know whether it was something that we developed or, something. So we've been doing, a lot of things over the years. Everybody talks about the GMOs now, and everybody's really concerned about those. And I know from the beekeeping standpoint, we're worried about those too, because sometimes when you start doing those gene manipulations, you can cause some problems. But really, in our vegetable, there's really not anything now except for, I think they have Roundup Ready sweet corn now that you can go out and plant sweet corn and spray Roundup, and it'll kill the weeds and the grass and everything, but it won't hurt the corn. So
It just, I can't. How does it do that, Kim?
they go in and somehow they take a gene of another plant that's resistant to Roundup, and they actually modify the chromosomes and the DNA. I know you way over my head. I just know how.
You're way
I just
beyond
know
mine.
they.
You
I
know
just.
it's possible.
I just know they do it, but they actually insert that gene or that genetic material in that plant that causes it to be resistant.
Does that affect
And-
the nutrients in the corn at all? Or is
no,
it
it's
still
not supposed to.
Okay.
It's not supposed to.
Supposed to,
but
right.
the thing that's really of concern to a lot of folks is that sometimes it may not be corn material that they're doing. It may be material from another plant or something that they're putting in there to.
A lot of people still talk about organic. They do less to it, and people charge more for it now, right?
Absolutely.
So-
But with the thing with organic, and it's great, it's really great for us as homeowners. On the commercial standpoint, it may not be so great because you're talking about acres and acres and acres of things that you do everything by hand. Now there's a few things that organic folks can use for insect and disease control, but for the most part there's not a whole lot of things. So us as consumers have to be able to or must accept things that maybe produce that has a blemish that we're normally, when you go to the grocery store, we see perfect fruit, we see perfect tomatoes, but with organics, we may have to accept blemishes here or spots on fruits or something that may appear but cause no problem really with the fruit.
Good morning, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland. I pushed the wrong button, didn't I? Good morning, caller. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
You finally found me, didn't you?
I was pushing. I need to turn around and look instead of trying to do it by feel. Go ahead.
This is Marilyn. I just wanted to call and remind everybody that the fish truck is at the co-op right now.
That's right. So if you need fish for your ponds and lakes, it's down at the co-op. See T-Bandy.
T-Bandy.
Yeah, and these fish don't mind that it's raining, so just come right up.
Don't bother them a bit, does it?
Doesn't bother them a bit.
They've got grass carp and catfish and bass and perch and.
They got a lot of things.
Yeah.
Ron T's been doing that for 100 years too. I mean,
Well, literally for about 100 years.
Well, you tell him that if he makes a gardener out of you, we'll buy him a prize.
He would. I'll have to take that course twice. Probably the only person that ever fails it. Okay, thank you, Marilyn.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's down at the co-op. They have a fish truck, and T helps organize. Well, he's retired from the co-op now, but I think he goes down there and helps them with it. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great.
Yeah. My husband is at the Peerless Road Farmers Market. He's got all kinds of tomato plants. He's got all kinds of pepper plants. He's got cucumber plants. He's got squash plants. He's got kohlrabies. He's got radishes. He's got onions and lettuce. And he's got tomatoes. And he's got some strawberries.
All right. And that's up on Peerless Road there at the I call it the JA building because that's what, but it's the farmers market right there.
Farmers Market on Peerless Road, yes.
Yeah. Just before you get to M&M Mars on the right.
Yes,
Yep,
sir.
and just right past the Bradley County Nursing Home,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Rehabilitation
I
Center,
appreciate it
right there on the
much. I
right.
just wanted to advertise it because he's up there selling
In the rain.
in the rain, but he's got a tent.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. It's that time of year with them crops.
It is, Ron. We've not officially opened the market yet, but there was another producer called and said, I've got some stuff, can I come and sell? And I said, we'll open when we start getting produce. So early spring crops are in.
There you go. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Ron.
Hey, Miss Ella, how are you?
Hey, I'm so happy this morning
Why are you so happy?
because they had me up on the dance floor dancing and taking all kinds of pictures. Left over with the band.
Where were you dancing at?
At Pokey's.
At Pokey's. Did you get drunk again?
No, I didn't get drunk. But then taking all kinds of pictures, they had me dancing up there, singing some kind of song, and that guy says, my wife that laughed says, well, this is my new one talking to me.
Oh. Kim, you got to watch Miss Ella here. She's a cougar.
I know. Yeah, sure enough.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, though. They had a good band. The first one was really good.
Well, that's good to hear. So, all right. So, what else going on?
That's all. My daughter's trying to get me a plane ticket to California.
Oh, you're going to take a plane this time instead of a bus?
Yeah, if my daughter buys it, I will.
I don't know if they can. I don't know if a plane load of people can handle you or not.
Well, you wouldn't believe how much fun I had last night.
I can believe how much fun you had last night. I can, yes.
I mean, I felt drunk, but I wasn't drunk. Oh, God.
Oh, so you're a cheap date then, right?
I guess so.
All right. Thank you, Miss Ella.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Miss Ella always got a call and everything. So
She's a good call on Saturday morning.
I wish I had her energy. She's about 73, 74, and she goes like that just like crazy. Every once in a while she gets down in her knees or something like that, and I go, I get down on my knees right now, and I'm not that old.
We may have to get her some bee stings.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Mr. Brett, how are you?
Good.
Well, you got any scores for us?
Atlanta lost.
Oh, no. Big, wasn't it? 10-1 or something like that?
No. Hey, it was 10-0.
10-0.
Didn't
Okay.
score. Wow.
Yeah. And who else is winning?
No, that was yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. Who does the Braves play today? Same team?
Yeah, the same team.
What time?
105.
If it don't rain it out.
Double is we have a double. We have a 2-day games. Ron.
Yeah, okay. But it's raining in Atlanta, isn't it?
No, it's in Detroit.
Well, it's probably going to rain there too, so, but, yeah. It's raining everywhere.
It's going to be today and tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds great. So,
And we welcome in the Tigers on Monday. No, the Nationals.
the Nationals, Washington Nationals, okay. All right, thanks, Brett.
I won't see that. I won't see that game, Mark. Ron.
Why not?
I'm going to be at Bradley watching the Chattanooga Bradley Central game.
Yeah, it's district playoff time for high school baseball, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's good.
I guess that's the first pitch.
Oh no! So everybody should wear their helmet in the stands.
No.
Well, congratulations! I'll have to come see. Is it what? When is that? Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to come up there and watch. I had got to see Bradley play this year.
It's not. It's the time for that game, Ron. At 6:00.
6 o'clock at Bear Stadium there at Bradley High School.
Not at 7.
At 6. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Brett.
All right.
Bye bye.
It's all right. He was trying to call you Mark Grissom. So
Yeah, I know.
It's all the same.
That's we have the bees. You know, he's talking about all this chemical stuff here. You know, do you think and a few years ago I read that bees were dying and was a problem. They thought it could even be cell phones. I mean, do you have any stories about that?
I do know that it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. It's viruses, it's chemicals, it's stress. We're exposing them to a lot of chemicals in the fields, but we're also exposing them to chemicals in their colonies, and we're breeding queens and exposing them to chemicals to keep those colonies healthy, and that changes. Queens used to live 5-6 years, and they're not living quite as long. We're just fighting a lot of different things. I don't think they've pinned it to one thing. They actually mentioned something about a virus from Australia, and we really upset the Australians from the bees that were coming in from Australia. They thought that had something to do with it, but we're always going to have issues. We're always going to fight parasites. That's an issue that's continual. I lost some bees this past season because of parasites, and I treated them, but they become resistant sometimes to the chemicals that we use. The bee labs tell us to use one thing this year, and then next year they'll tell us to use something different. That doesn't work, and try this, and we're confused.
Right. I think over the years, nature isn't quite as natural as it used to be, and we have to defend it. Mm-hmm. I don't think people would realize that if we continue to lose bees, what that actually mean to people. I mean.
Well, we have other pollinators. Honeybees are not the only pollinators. If we lost honeybees altogether, the UGA entomologist, what's his name? I forgot his name, but he's the equivalent of John Skinner here.
Right.
He had an article about if we lost honeybees, and he basically said that we would have fruits and vegetables because we do have other pollinators. We just wouldn't have as much, basically, and only the elite would be able to afford to purchase what is produced. I tried to pollinate some pumpkins last year, and next to the pumpkins this farmer had was a beautiful field of corn that was in full bloom, as far as pollen. Well, the bees are opportunists, and they went to the pollen from the corn than the pumpkin blossoms. But what I saw in the pumpkin blossoms were bumblebees and another type of bee in our area that did pollinating. He still got his crop. I moved the bees out because they weren't doing him a bit of good. They were all opportunists and going to the pollen from the corn plant. Corn does not give off nectar, but it gives off an abundance of pollen. So, we have other pollinators. The problem is, years ago when we all had our own gardens, and we had enough local pollinators around our homestead to pollinate our gardens. Well, now we have 200 acres of pumpkins here or 300 acres of watermelon there, and there are not enough local pollinators to do a sufficient job, and that's why farmers call for honeybees to be brought out. They're the only insect that you can move in large quantities to a field to benefit them in that way. So
I think it's interesting that people actually hire you to come
yes.
put their bees out, and then you get done. You get it on both ends there, don't you?
Yeah, I just moved bees out of Apple Valley Orchard Thursday night. They were done pollinating there.
Good, because I like their apples.
Good.
Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing?
Hey, Bullet, how are you?
Pretty good. I was going to ask your guest there. Seems like every time up there midsummer, I don't know if bees stay underground or not. I may be talking about something else, but anyway, me and my brother gets heck stung out of us every year. They seem like they come up from out of the ground.
Are they honeybees or are they yellow jackets? Maybe.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know the difference.
Well, they look dramatically different. Honeybees usually are not in the ground. They have to build wax comb in order to survive.
Well, maybe these are not honeybees then.
Right.
But these come out of the ground, and it's usually about midsummer. And I know I get stung a lot. But.
Yeah, yellow jackets are repeaters. They can sting over and over again. A honeybee's going to leave a stinger in you.
Oh, okay.
When it stings you, and it's going to die. So you can usually tell if it's a yellow jacket if you do not find a sting. Yellow jackets hurt a lot worse than a honeybee sting does. It will hurt for days when a honeybee sting is, if not over immediately, doesn't last long at all, depending on where you get stung.
Bullet takes care, him and his brother takes care of the Veterans Cemetery up here in Fort Hill. And first off, thanks to him and his brother, because this is just an amazing thing they do. And they go up there and take care of it, and I'm glad we have somebody that does that. And so, but you pay a price, don't you, Bullet?
Yeah, I've been doing it. We've been doing it about 14 years now, and but we're going to keep doing it as long as I'm able. I heard your guest saying also that the bees are good for your arthritis.
Yep.
They are, yes.
Where can a person come to do that?
Well, I don't sting anybody anymore. I just don't have the time. There's a big liability in stinging people as well. You have to do a control sting to make sure they don't have a reaction to a sting.
I guess Ron would rather have that done is have that sharp point put in his knee.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. You can also try, they say, apple cider vinegar and honey helps arthritis, so you can try that as well.
I have a bad knee problem, too, and but anyway, I appreciate you, Ron, and where's Miss Deb at this morning?
She's down at the museum. They're having the Blooming Art Festival, and she's down there selling her book, and then of course the DVD, and then doing very well. They had opened up last night, and it opens at 10 this morning. So.
Well, okay, it was good talking to you.
Hey, Bullet, we found something we've been looking for, and we're getting it blowed up to 8 by 10, and I'm bringing you a copy. It's a picture of you, Tommy Wildfire Rich, and me posing together.
That's gonna be great. I'm gonna appreciate. I'll even pay you for that.
Oh no, you don't have to pay for that. Just anything else. So that's a. And of course, I'm the best looking one of the three. I have to admit. So that tells you how ugly you and Tommy Wildfire is, then.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've got that. We couldn't see where did we put it, and we found it, and I said we gotta go, and we're gonna take and get an 8 by 10 made of it, and bring it to you.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye bye. I got to MC a wrestling event, and Bullet was a big fan. He used to work around the wrestling people and knew Tommy Wildfire Ridge, so the three of us got our picture made together.
You was Harry Thornton there.
I was Harry Thornton for a while. That's right. So that was
Yes,
pretty interesting.
Actually, those yellow jackets are in the wasp family.
Okay.
And so that, but there's several different ground dwellers like that. But the yellow jackets.
Now doesn't bumblebees get down in the ground bore? Sometimes
the nest will be close to the ground. Sometimes I don't know that they'll actually get down in the ground.
There's something bores down in the ground, makes that perfect little hole, and they sting. When you mow over them, they get mad and they come out and sting
it's
you.
typically yellow jackets too.
Yeah.
Though.
Those
really
are the yellow jackets. Now there's a cicada killer wasp. It looks like a B-52 plane flying over.
Right.
I mean, they are huge.
They will carry off honeybees. Yeah. I've seen them many times.
And a lot of folks will confuse those with the European hornets that also nest in in a paper type. It's more like the yellow jackets than honeybees. They don't produce any honey or anything like that, but they'll nest in walls of old houses and stuff. But they're huge, and they'll actually fly around the lights at night, where most of the bees and other insects are in the nest at night. These things forage all night long and during the day, and they're just
So the bumblebees and yellow jackets and wasps, they just eat the pollen? They don't produce any type of honey? Or
Bumblebees bring honey back to their colony, but they feed it. Honeybees are the only ones that store it for future use. They all consume it but eat it immediately.
Diane mentioned.
Deb wants you to call her live. Okay.
Diane mentioned parasites and things, and I think a lot of that too, Ronnie, is back years ago when the wild bees were everybody they were in the gardens and everything, and the parasites have really done a number on our wild bees, and so that's where the services you offer as far as our commercial folks and large growers come in, where you can go and set in hives and for pollination purposes.
Back in I want to say the early 90s, I think I was the second one in the state to. No, that was varroa mites. Might have been the mid or late 90s that I was one of the. I think the first or second one to have small hive beetles, and small hive beetles are detrimental to a colony because of what it does to the comb and any honey in the comb. You can't basically use the comb after they've infested it. They lay their eggs and the larva hatches and crawls through the comb and just annihilates it, And
it does something to the wood in the hive too.
That does not. That's the wax moth.
Okay.
Everybody will say I can't tell you how many times people have told me that small boll weevils have killed my hives. Well, it's the wax moth. And it's the larva that decimates the wood in the colony. And what happens is we always have wax moth larvae in our colonies. In a good, strong colony, they can keep it in check. But the minute something happens to the queen or something happens to the population where the population dwindles down and they cannot keep up with taking care of that wax moth larva grows and it feeds off the wood. And it's like spins a cocoon, and it will totally fill a colony.
It'll ruin a hive.
Right.
I mean, it just...
And if something's happened to the colony, so it will get very small and either move up into a super or totally just die out. And they think the wax moth has killed it, but that's not the case.
Hey, we've got someone here on the phone. Good morning. Who we got here?
Good morning. This is Debbie. How's everything there this morning?
Oh, we're having a great time. We're finding out about honeys and bees and plants and some really fun things. And T's got fish down at the co-op, so we've talked about every creature in the world so far.
Well, I know someplace that everyone can buy that good Appalachian bee honey, and that's right here at the Museum Center at 5 Points. We're having the Blooming Arts Festival today from 10 to 6, and to come through and look at everything and see the museum today, I believe it's free. And we'll be here from 10 to 6, and we have lots of folks coming in now to see what's on display here, and it's getting kind of busy. I like busy.
Good. And so there are jewelry, there's carvings, there's paintings, photography.
There's beautiful pottery, too.
Yes, there's 2 authors there, Deb, and, of course, a Ron Cooper who walked the Trail of Tears from Fort Cass in Charleston to Oklahoma. So he wrote a book about that. That's the Jerry Ellis also did that a couple of years ago, but he comes the other way back this way. So, but that's 2, and then of course Deb has her book there, and then she has the other book she wrote about Caney Creek and the DVD, and she has some historical maps.
The maps have been very popular.
Historical maps of Chattanooga and Bradley County during the Civil War era. Wow. So marks roads and trails.
There's also free art, make it, take it workshops today for the children, and that might be something fun to do with the kids. So everybody come out and see me. I'm over on the back wall, and then we'll be showing Caney Creek here on May the 9th at 6:30, and we hope that everybody will come out and see the video and talk with us. The award-winning video.
Yes.
Hey, Deb. This is Dustin. Do they still have any cherries left over there in your corner? Hello?
Are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear Dustin? I think we lost her. All right.
Last night they were serving some special maraschino cherries there at the Museum 5 Center.
Basically, someone brought some homemade moonshine and
25-year-old moonshine,
and they soaked some cherries in it. So, would you like to try one? Yes. So,
and me and Ron said sure.
And my throat's not sore today, and my sinuses are clear, and so there's another use of corn. Good healthy stuff there. Right. You're listening to Whoop FM 99.9. We got Diane Ravens and Tim Frady here. We're talking about planting and bees and just having a good time. You can call us here at 614-5553, like that caller almost did.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep, our lines are working, so call us back. Kim, what is the easiest thing for someone to grow at their house besides weeds? Now, I'm having trouble with those two, but
I would say probably the plant of choice for the setting a flower bed is probably a tomato plant. Everybody can, put out a tomato plant and grow a tomato.
It's amazing how that little bitty seed can grow such a big plant and additional fruit. It's just an amazing. A tomato seed's tiny.
Absolutely.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yes, I have a question for Diane. I'm Becky from Chatsworth, Georgia, and I'm a new beekeeper. So do you have any advice for somebody that's just getting into beekeeping?
Read as much as you can before you get your bees.
Sorry, what?
Read as much as you can before you get your bees. Learn about bees as much as possible. You will kill bees. I will kill bees till the day I die.
Actually, I do already have my bees. I have 3 hives, and actually I've just been in it in the last month. So.
Well, knowledge is power. So the more you understand about their life cycles, the more you understand about their parasites, the varroa mites, the small hive beetle, the more you can anticipate what's going to happen in the future. The queen is the nucleus of the hive, and it's important. Your job is to manage the queen and the entire colony, but to make sure that your queen is healthy and continually laying. Honeybees, worker bees who do all the work in the colony and outside the colony, only live 35 to 45 days during the busy season, which is now. So every day honeybees are going to be dying in your colony. Well, every day you need new bees hatching out. And if the queen is not healthy and laying well, you will not have that. Your colony population will dwindle down. And if something's wrong with the queen, it's time to get rid of her and get a new queen in. And you may have new queens in your hive. I don't know if you bought existing colonies or new packages, but
these were new packages.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that something's not going to happen to the queen. Sometimes queens don't lay well.
Okay.
So
how often do you think that I should check my hives?
I check my hives from now until probably the end of June, every 8 to 10 days.
Okay.
A new queen will hatch out in 14 to 17 days. So if something happens in your colony and you have queen cells, first of all, you don't want to cut them out until you determine why they made queen cells. Yeah. If something happened to the old queen and they're raising a new queen, you need to keep one of those queen cells. If they're just overcrowded, there's too much honey or nectar, too much pollen in the colony, they can't grow. So what they do is they will produce queen cells and then they'll swarm. When your colony swarms, you're going to lose your honey production. So you want to cut that off at the pass. You want to get in there and make sure that the queen is healthy, no queen cells, and laying well. Be very careful when you're inspecting your colony. I can't say this enough, because when you're pulling frames in and out of the colony, you can easily roll or accidentally kill a queen. So be gentle, be careful, be methodical with your movements. Bees like slow movements. They don't like fast, jerky movements. So when I go in my colonies, I don't wear a suit, but that's because I know how to act and I can understand their temperament. Doesn't mean I don't get stung. I do get stung, but you still have to be very careful. Always use your smoker. I knew some new beekeepers that just didn't get the program, and they went in their colonies, wondered why they were so aggressive, and never used a smoker. Well, smokers are very important, and if you don't wear a suit, that's your protection.
Yeah.
So monitor the colony carefully. Monitor the queen. Make sure when you go in a colony, you look for eggs, larvae, and capped over brood. If you have all three, that means everything is good, and there should be an abundant amount of all of those. As soon as a bee chews her way out of her cell for the first time, they'll clean that cell out, and then the queen will relay. So it's important for you to be able to recognize eggs. They're very, very tiny.
They can relay in an existing cell then. Okay.
Yeah. The queen will lay over and over again in the honeycomb. So make sure you can identify the eggs. They're very small and
like a little piece of rice, maybe.
Extreme. Yes, and much smaller than a piece of rice. A piece of rice magnified 100 times.
Oh, okay.
So, I would definitely recommend that.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Also, before you go, and I know Tennessee has a master beekeeper program. I'm sure University of Georgia's got something very
Tennessee
similar.
did. Skinner does it.
Yeah.
I attended it several years ago.
I'm sure they've got something that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that if there's a beekeepers organization
right.
or something, to join something you can learn a lot from other beekeepers.
Well, I did actually join the Ocoee Beekeepers Association. I'm in Murray County, so.
Okay. Ocoee is a good one to get involved with, and just try to make a rapport with someone who knows a little bit more than you do about bees.
There's also a group in Chattanooga, I think. I don't
Yes,
know.
Tennessee Beekeeping. The good thing about Ocoee Region Beekeepers is they have a library. So if you are a member, you can take out any books from their library, and we had quite an extensive library. So read up as much as possible. Search online for information. And monitor all three colonies. And with the Ocoee Region Beekeepers, if you have an issue, you can ask at their meetings. You can talk to people about what you see, and is that a problem or is that normal? Mm-hmm. So establish a relationship with other beekeepers.
Okay.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
All right. You're listening to Whoop FM here. We're talking about bees and planting. We got Diane Ravens and Kim Frady. And you can call us here at 614-5553. Kim, how do you get rid of groundhogs?
Lead poisoning works really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the city.
Well,
you don't supposed to discharge your farm. I didn't used to be in the city. The city come and got me.
Yeah.
So my father's run into the same problem too. His vegetable garden last year, about half of it got eaten up by groundhogs.
We discussed that in our Master Gardener program. I have a fellow coworker from Winchester that comes over, and first part of the session he talks about attracting wildlife. Second half he talks about getting rid of it.
We need to.
Okay.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hi, I've got a question for Diane. I was wondering, is there a good book for those of us who would like to get into bees that would be a good starter book to know where to get the products, to get the nests and to order stuff?
Well, they don't really talk about where to get the equipment or the bees, but what they do is talk about how to install the bees or how to raise them and what you're going to see. The Beekeeper's Handbook is a good one. There are quite a few out there. All of the bee suppliers sell these books. There's several different bee suppliers. We don't have anybody in our state. Rossman's out of Georgia. In fact, their website is georgiabees.com, GABEES.com. Go to their website, ask them for a catalog. They will send you a catalog, or you can see their items right online. Brushy Mountain Bee Farm in Moravian Falls, North Carolina is a good place. Walter Kelly is out in Clarkson, Kentucky. Dadant is in Hamilton, Illinois. Man Lake is up in Minnesota. They have great bee suits at Man Lake. I would definitely recommend going online, requesting catalogs from all these places, because that's where you will be able to purchase the equipment. and it's important to call the equipment by the right name. So now the more you know about a super or a hive body or brood chamber or bottom board or inner cover, it's important to know what you're talking about. So you can.
Okay, so that would be the Beekeeper's Handbook.
Now, would that be in the library?
Way to start. I'm sorry.
I was wondering if it would be in the library.
I
here.
don't know if it's in the Cleveland Library, whether or not you can try the library. What I would do is get books that are some of the newer books. Don't get a book from the 1960s or 70s about beekeeping. It's changed a lot since then. So get something that's updated. The library, you can find a lot of books online as well, but get those catalogs because they will have the most up-to-date information on the good books that are out there and the equipment that you can get.
And Dr. Skinner has a publication on the UT Extension website that's called Beekeeping in Tennessee.
Yes, that is an awesome publication because it talks about what to do throughout the beekeeper's year. So I really do like that for beginning beekeepers, and you can probably get that at Kim's office.
You can, or you can go online and actually download that publication. They sell it at the university, but you can download it for free. And all you do is go to utextension.tennessee, and you spell out the word Tennessee.edu. And that takes you to the UT Extension website. You go down and look for publications. It's kind of in a menu over on the left, and then you type in Beekeeping in Tennessee, and it'll pull it right up, and you can download it and print it and everything.
You're not going to learn everything from books, so being in the beehive is the best way to learn more, but that's a good start. It's a good start.
Is it reasonable to think that one nest, like for an individual, would be enough, or would you actually need two?
One would probably be enough, but when they say when you start out with bees, it's better to start out two with one. That way, if one is weaker and one is stronger, and you need to rob brood from one to give to the other, you can still do that. If you lose your queen or something happens, you're going to lose your whole hive if you only have one. This way, if you have two, you have one for backup. So, it's not cheap. It's rather expensive to purchase a whole colony setup with enough supers and frames and foundation to start one. But once you start reading about honeybees, you'll be fascinated, and it's a journey that you will appreciate.
Do you sell your honey locally?
I do. I sell it out of my honey house. I sell it online at honeybeesrock.com. I sell it in Cleveland at Cook's, Abundant Living, Apple Valley Orchard as soon as they open back up at the end of July or in July, and in Chattanooga as well, and in the Ocoee area, Ocoee Dam Deli.
It's good stuff too.
The Whitewater Center, yeah.
Okay. There was one more question. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, you can email me. You can email me at diane@honeybeesrock.com if you have any questions. It's real easy to email. I can do it real early in the morning, or, so.
Okay. And isn't the local honey to help with your allergies and stuff? Like if I had a thing, it would probably help with the allergy situations of my family.
Local is not as important as people think, and as everybody says. What's more important when you buy honey is honey that's not overheated or overfiltered, because you're ruining the nutritional value. When you overfilter honey, you're filtering the pollens out, and that's what helps you with your allergies. And that's the protein in the honey. We have the same floral source throughout the entire state of Tennessee, so in Polk County and Hamilton County, the honey difference is no difference, because we have the same floral sources. Even our surrounding states have the same floral sources that we have. You might find a little something different in South Georgia or Florida, but they say pollen from one plant can help you with allergies to another. So when you're buying honey, what's most important is that you buy honey that's not been overprocessed, overheated. Talk to your beekeeper if you buy it from a beekeeper, and get to know the integrity of your beekeeper, because there are some beekeepers that do things that are not good out there. So, it's important to establish a rapport with where you buy your honey, or that you're buying honey that's not from another country.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for all your information.
You're welcome.
Thank you for calling.
That was a question that I had, Ron, because I'd heard that you needed honey from local here to. But that was a really good response.
Well, I guess that the local would be, like say, the floral source is there, but if it's from California, it might be different, right? I mean, when it gets totally
the
different.
pollens are different, but you're still getting a nutritional value from
Right.
those pollens. What you're doing when you're buying local honey is you're supporting your local farmer or your local beekeeper, which is really important. That's one of the things you can do to help honeybees is just by buying local produce and buying local honey. So there's nothing wrong with it.
And it's a natural product, so all the processing and everything that it goes through is really not needed.
In fact, what Sue Bee Honey does is they get honey from the United States and other countries, and they want a uniform color and a uniform taste. So they blend it all together and filter it and filter it and filter it until they get the same color and the same taste that, it's always the same flavor when you buy Sue Bee honey. That's why they process it so much. They heat it to, I believe, above 160 degrees, which is not good. That's too hot. And that prevents crystallization on the shelf because they can't take a bottle off the shelf and give them a credit. And, nobody wants to buy a jar of crystallized honey on the shelf.
But there's a way to fix that, after regular
fix
honey.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
I'm sorry, I just thought of my other question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I attend the local meetings or the meetings in the area? Do they have a schedule for those?
The Ocoee Region Beekeepers meet the third Tuesday of the month. Anyone can come. You do not have to be a member to attend. I don't know when Cherokee meets. Cherokee Beekeepers meets in the Athens, probably at the Farm Bureau. I was vice president of that a long time ago.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know when they meet, but I think they meet once a month now. You can go online and Google probably Cherokee Beekeepers out of Athens. But Ocoee Region Beekeepers meets the third Tuesday of the month at the Benton Municipal Building on Highway 411 at 6:30 p.m.
I think the Chattanooga group meets monthly too, don't they?
Yeah, they just changed their location or are changing their location, so I'm not quite sure where Chattanooga is meeting now.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. She said she'd lost her train of thought. I missed my train. I just So
one important thing I'd like to mention about crystallized honey, set it in the sun. On a hot day above 85 degrees, set it in the sun, make sure the lid's on it tight. The sun will reliquefy it.
yeah, so if you have old honey sitting in your cabinet,
Yes.
basically just break it out, sit in the sun.
Honey never spoils. Don't refrigerate it.
Don't microwave it.
Well, if you microwave it, you will reliquefy it, but you're really
Killing this.
exposing it to high temperatures.
Need to eat it if you microwave it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But honey will crystallize quicker with the amount of pollens in it and other minerals and things that are in the honey. That will make it crystallize quicker.
So that's a good thing then, right?
Yes. And just because my jar crystallizes, actually that's a good thing. That shows that I don't overheat it. That shows that it's packed full of pollens and other good things.
I've got a good question for you. Minute one. You see jars of honey. It's got comb in it.
Yes.
Should you eat that? Is that good? That bad? Is it just for show or what is it?
A lot of people just like to chew the comb. They chew it like gum.
It's sort of it's really waxy.
It's really waxy. When I'm out working in the colonies, and sometimes they will build some of that comb in between the hive bodies and supers. And we try to keep our colonies clean. When you're pulling out frames, you scrape that off, and I'm frequently will eat it, and it's really good when you're out in the sun and working, and you get a nice little taste of honey, and it's a blast of honey when you bite into honeycomb.
But you just sit there and chew on it.
I've heard people say that it's better than regular honey for you. I don't see the difference though, because you're not consuming the wax. You're getting the honey out of it, which is what you get in the jar of honey anyways. It's just a novelty.
Oh, it helps sell.
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of times, Ron, that's an extra cost to the beekeeper.
It is definitely.
They
yes.
can't go in and reuse that because they have to put new foundation inside those frames in order for the bees to make cells and produce.
Yeah, it's more work for the honeybee.
I try to. I'm a very amateur planter, and thing. And I've read different things. Is like you shouldn't put your tomato plants and maybe your bell pepper plants next to each other. Is that true?
If you were an heirloom seed collector, there's probably something to that. And, everybody says if you've got banana pepper and cayenne hot pepper somewhere, or
Right.
hot banana together, they'll cross. And if you save those seed, yeah, they'll probably be cross-pollinated. And the banana wouldn't be sweet banana anymore. So, but I don't know that that banana pepper is going to be banana pepper this year.
If I went to Walmart and bought a tomato plant and a bell pepper plant, and they sit next to each other, the only thing that might be different is what nutrients those plants each need. And
right,
where do you find the need for what type of nutrients they, magnesium makes the plant greener, right? But it doesn't make more fruit.
No.
Okay, but a green plant is needed to help do that. So where do you find what you need for a tomato plant and a bell pepper and a habanero and squash?
From your soil test.
Oh, I didn't know you had to have a soil test.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
I can look at, you got a jar full of soil there, and I can look at it, and you can look at it, and Dustin can look at it, and Diane can look at it, and we can all three say, yeah, that's pretty soil. But we have no clue what the nutrient content of that soil is. We have no idea how much phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, manganese, zinc, boron, iron, all those nutrients and micronutrients that plants need. We have no clue unless we test it in soil lab in order to see.
Doesn't Miracle-Gro do that?
Yeah, you can go out there. But the thing is, with fertilizers, now they're so expensive to buy. You may not need a certain formulation of fertilizer that costs a whole lot of money. So you can spend $7 and get your soil tested. They'll send you back a report that says you need to do this, this, and this, and you need to apply it at this time. And yes, you need lime, or no, you don't, because pH is also critical in the soil, because the pH determines whether those nutrients that are there, whether that plant can actually take those nutrients up or not. If the pH is very acidic, then the clay particles in the soil actually tie up some of those nutrients. And what calcium does is it causes the soil particles to release those nutrients. So if you have acidic soil, even though you got plenty of potassium or phosphorus there, those soil particles may be holding it so tight that the plants can't take it, the roots can't get it.
Okay, tell me what 2, 4, 6, and 10, 10, 10, and what does all that mean?
Those three numbers on the bag, the first number's the nitrogen, the amount of nitrogen's in it. The second one's the amount of phosphorus, or the phosphate, P2O5. The third one's the amount of potash or potassium that's in there.
Okay, hold on a second. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask the lady, does she sell bigger containers, her honey up at Cook's?
They're not. What they have now at Cook's is a 2-pound jar. That's the largest that I sell, and I am converting to all glass, so that will be going away soon. And then the largest will be a 19-ounce jar. I don't sell it in larger quantities than that.
Uh-huh. Well, I bought some up there. I had been buying it from my daughter-in-law's cousin, and he ran out, so he doesn't have any more. So my son went up there and found this at Cook's, and I eat honey every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if I have bronchitis, I use honey and vinegar for my bronchitis.
Right.
And I use it for a lot of things,
Right. We do honey and vinegar at home as well.
I heard honey and vodka really helps that cough, too.
That mean, Ronnie. You're not talking to Ella.
That's good. That was good.
Because I don't do that stuff.
Oh, I know you don't.
But I'm going to thank you for it. I like the honey real well.
Good, thank you.
And also, I'll just continue on buying it up there.
All righty. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. But, Ron, will you play me a song after you go off?
I sure will. What do you want?
I want that John Anderson where he's a swinging.
He's a swinging.
I like that.
I'll play that about 12 o'clock when we get out of here.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. All right.
We got a listener online asking about honey and lemon juice. Everybody ask about honey and lemon juice.
Honey and lemon juice. I haven't heard of honey and lemon juice. I'm sure it's good. It would make a lemonade, wouldn't it?
Well, I think anything that had that lemon would be good for your throat, and the honey just sort of makes it.
Yeah.
I always thought the honey made
Soothing,
it stick
yeah.
to your throat,
Yeah.
and whatever was in it was.
I did work for a beekeeper once, and I had an upset stomach, and he said, sit down. He grabbed a lemon, squeezed it into a jar, put some honey in it and water. He said, drink this. This will help your stomach, and it did. So, I'm sure the acid in the lemon helped. And I'm sure it was good.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break. We'll be back here in just a few minutes, and we talk about your bees and your plants. Bye-bye.
WOOP LP, Cleveland, Tennessee.
Check into cash. Got the cash you need when you need it fast. We're your money machine. We'll make your wallet sing. Get on up and get down. Check into cash. Ka-ching.
Short on cash? Visit Check Into Cash and get up to $425 cash advance until your next payday, even without a check. It's quick, easy, and confidential.
Money in your pocket so quick and easy. Get the cash you need confidentially.
Got a bank account but no checkbook? Not a problem with Check Into Cash. If you need money now, you can get our new payday loan even without a check. Get the money you need right now at Check Into Cash, your one-stop money shop.
Check into cash is your money machine. Get on up and get down. Check into cash. Ka-ching.
Always use Payday Advance responsibly. Visit checkintocash.com for the store nearest you. Wheeler Technologies has moved. Visit them at their new location at 490 Grove Avenue Southwest next to Bradley Rentals. Same great folks, same great service with a better location to serve you. Call Wheeler Technologies for voice, data, and security needs at 664-TECH. That's 664-8324. And remember, depend on Wheeler Technologies for the current time and temperature every day at 476-1111. Tennessee Alarm Contractor C1750.
Did you know that local businesses produce more income, jobs, and taxes that stay in your local community than national chain stores do? For every $100 spent in a locally owned business, $45 stays in the local economy, while only $15 stay locally when you buy at a national chain store. When you buy from Mermaid Mattress, you are shopping local. Plus, when you buy direct from the factory, you get a better mattress at a better price, guaranteed. But only at Mermaid Mattress here in Cleveland. 1/2 mile off 25th Street on Georgetown Road, right here in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee. Call 472-2486. Locally in Cleveland at Mermaid Mattress, find out why Frodaddy and Matador both sleep on a locally made mattress at Mermaid. You give them a call at 472-2486.
Mermaid Mattress Factory and Showroom.
Join us every Tuesday night at 7 for Whoop on Wheels with Fast Eddie and Big G right here on 99.9 Whoop FM.
If I live to be 100.
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9 or on the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We're talking to Diane Ravens and Kim Frady today. We're talking about bees and planting. And Kim, let's go back to groundhogs and other creatures that eat your garden.
Wildlife can be very detrimental. I know last year we fought groundhogs, we fought crows, we fought deer. You know, we have a lot of obstacles to overcome sometimes when you're trying to grow a garden. But the groundhogs can be very, very, very destructive. Raccoons can be destructive of sweet corn. I mean, you sweet corn gets ready to pick, and you'll go out and all the stalks are laid over and rode down where they've.
I'm pretty bad about that too.
Yeah,
I go get them.
But groundhogs, they're pretty hard to deal with. Trapping is probably our safest way. Shooting works real well if you're in an area where you can do that.
You can't do that inside the city limits.
That's right.
Unless, you can, just don't get caught.
And trapping, either live trap or a conibear trap that's used for things like beaver and muskrat and things in the water.
Mhm.
If you don't have any dogs or cats or your neighbor don't, those work pretty well because it's a steel trap and you set it up at the entrance of the groundhog hole. Like you said a while ago, you block they have two ways to get in and out. You block one and set this steel trap up, and it'll take care of them too. But groundhogs are they're difficult to deal with, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're not that little fuzzy creature that predicts the weather. I have one under my mom's house. I've got to get it out because it's trying to eat insulation and everything, and it's just making a home and a nest, and so. But we don't need it underneath there. Particularly, what's the worst thing is if they die underneath your house. That's where it really gets bad. Of course, that means also skunks can get in there and weasels and. I actually seen a weasel here not too long ago chase a chipmunk across the road.
Oh my goodness.
You know, things you don't very seldom see. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey.
I just wanted to tell you about my groundhog.
Go ahead.
I've had one for about 2 years.
What's his name?
And it kept eating my garden up.
Uh-huh.
And I tried to trap it, but I couldn't. So I just quit making a garden and started feeding it. It's a big old thing now.
You know, in Kentucky, this is a guy told me this up in the Kentucky areas that they actually have groundhogs in their houses as pets. And then there's another guy, he says, I said, what do you have for pets in Kentucky? He said, well, we use groundhogs because they couldn't afford a dog or nothing up in them old poor coal mining country, so they actually had them as pets inside the house.
Well, this is right in my garden in the backyard, and we had 12 cucumber just growing plumb to the top of wires. One night it ate every one of them. And we got to watching it, and it got to coming out. We put a trap down there and left it down there for about 6 months. That thing never would go in it.
You wouldn't baiting it with the right thing. You got to bait that trap with something that it likes.
I put lettuce, carrots, everything I could think of in it.
No, you need to put according to the specialists that cantaloupe works better than anything else. They love cantaloupe rind. The smell and everything will attract them in there. Now, live traps are really difficult to get a groundhog in. Raccoons, you can, Little Debbie honey buns and oatmeal cream pies work really good for raccoons, but cantaloupe's I think the key for groundhogs. But they're pretty smart. Those live traps don't like to go in them real well.
Well, I've kind of got used to sitting around watching him, so I'm just going to keep him.
All right. If you can't beat them, join them, right?
Do what?
If you can't beat them, join them.
That's right.
And you can always go to the farmer's market on
That's
Peerless
right.
Road and buy your vegetables and stuff. So
I tell you, it's cheaper because it probably costs me $40-50 for every tomato I plant every year.
Think about it, it does.
They're good though. They're that one or two that I finally get to grow. It's it costs me $50, so I enjoy every bite of it.
Right. You don't waste none of it.
None of it. That's right.
All right.
Thank you, Ed.
Bye.
Bye.
Somebody online said you would trap Ron in a trap if it had Little Debbie's in it.
Oh, yeah. My arm be right in there, yeah.
Hey, what about some of the stuff you can get at, Lowe's and Home Depot? I used to work at Lowe's, and we'd have those, like those stakes you put in the ground or the bombs. Are any of those effective, or is it just irritate them.
Well, they can be effective, but most of the time it'll just either it'll run them off to somewhere else. With certain ones, it's better to go ahead and catch them and
remove them.
Yeah,
okay.
Just go ahead and.
I worry I
get
do
rid of
something
'em.
and it dies underneath the house.
Right.
Never fails. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's even worse because you have to pay somebody who will go in there and get that, and they usually probably want a lot of money. So just like working in plumbing.
and you talking about things dying in the house. We get calls all the time about the lady beetles that that come in, and you find those in the house, and people want us, what can I spray and kill them with? Well, you don't really want to do that because if you have a mass of lady beetles that you kill, then other insects will come in and try to clean those up, and you can actually do more damage. And best thing to do is take a vacuum cleaner if you can get to them and vacuum them up and get them out.
Well, and I think that insects outside the house are really beneficial because they are food sources for other things, and also a lot of your plants are going to be pollinated by simply insects trying to
Right.
Let's get this call. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning. I have a question for Mr. Frady.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to know why is it Dayton strawberries beat all strawberries anywhere in southeast Tennessee, hands down. I mean, they're the secretariat of strawberries, and I'm explain that to me.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Probably the key word there is management. The Tidwells do an excellent job with what they do over there, and those are the system that he's got's the plasticulture system where they go in and they plant plants on the it's just a raised bed with plastic covered, and they have drip irrigation tube underneath so they can fertilize, and they keep just a meticulous account of what the nutrients and everything is in the soil, and so it's just I'd say the key's management.
They got it figured out.
Yeah.
At one time here in Bradley County, going back 1910, 1920, that they organized and started growing strawberries here in Bradley County, and became a big industry here. And we had a process house down here, and we were shipping out frozen peaches and strawberries, 100,000 crates a year, something like that. And then, P. Dab Matthews here, out here on Prospect area, that's what he did a lot, was pick the strawberries. They was up on side of those ridges, and they done very well. But in the 1950s, 60s come along, more industrialized jobs come along, and they couldn't find people to pick it, and then child labor laws come along, and so really that industry got regulated out, and different industries come here. So because Bradley County was pretty huge in that kind of agriculture. Have you seen any of those, read any of that stuff about it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Back that was in the 50s, like you say, 40s and 50s. There was a lot of produce grown here and shipped by rail car out to other parts of the United States.
We have over on Euclid. It used to be called Waterhouse Street. We had a big ice house. Actually processed them. It was a pretty big industry, so that's interesting. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Well, good morning. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Saturday. I love this rain.
Oh, me too.
Okay, I have a question when buying herbs.
Okay.
I'm a single mom, 2 kids in college, but it's best to go ahead and get the better herbs, correct?
Well, I think better is good on everything, isn't it?
Sure.
Well, there's a brand out there. They sell at Lowe's.
What kind? I don't know.
I'm not familiar with what do they?
It begins with a B.
A B.
Bonnie?
I don't know. Maybe.
Are they Bonnie plants?
Could be Bonnie plants.
Yeah, I think it's better when you're doing herbs to go ahead and spend the more money, right?
It depends on what the size of the plant has a lot to do with their pricing too. I think if they're the container that they're in, but yeah, if the plant is if you can get a bigger plant for not much more money, yes, I'd probably go ahead and do that, because it'll establish
no matter who is the nursery that brings them there. If the plant looks sick now, it's probably going to be sick. So no matter what brand name it is, you want to pick a healthy plant. And I think greenness is probably course, if the plant's supposed to be green.
That and the other thing that I would do too, I would, if it's in a container, a plastic cup or a container of some sort, kind of hold it and turn it over and try to slip that cup off and look at the root system of that plant too.
Right,
Make sure
you
it's
don't want to put it in shock.
right.
My plants are my babies.
Yep. Make sure it's not pot bound, and if it is, then you might not want to choose that one unless you want to repot it when you get home. And
Okay, is it hard for a woman to grow lavender?
no, I think lavender is one of the easier ones to do. That.
What
and some of the
variety
mints.
for this area what variety of lavender? I know there's.
I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know all the.
I've got probably one of the biggest rosemary bushes in Bradley County, and
Right.
it started out at like 6 inches. And we
Yeah.
know about rosemary.
Yeah,
And
that's easy to grow.
All the mints grow real well too. I know my wife dug up some and to share with somebody the other day. It just the mints grow real well here.
You might, caller, you may be interested in the Master Gardener plant that program they do here every year. When will there be the next one?
We'll probably start again next January.
And
we won't do one.
And you just unbelievable stuff. I'm going to go one of these days, but it seems like my schedule has never been, the same as his.
Well, excellent job. Thank you for the advice. I want everybody to have a great, and thank God for this rain because my flowers are so happy.
Yeah, but I like it for my plants and all that, but the grass is going to grow too.
Well, you know what? That's why I work 2 jobs, and my kids are both graduating, and I pay somebody to do that.
Amen. That's
God bless Tennessee.
Yeah.
God bless Tennessee women.
That's right. I like them too. Thanks. Bye-bye. The someone I read that there was a new hybrid corn that you could grow in a planter. Have you heard about that? I just read it about that, and it says
Hadn't heard that one.
I've never been able to grow corn in anything. You remember the old TV series Green Acres?
Yep.
That was my corn. And for some reason, one year I had a real good okra crop, and then I've never got to grow again. What's the secret to okra? I've had people, you got to soak the seeds, you got to soak it with soap water and everything, all that. I do all that, but then just don't. The plant will grow, and then sometime I don't get any fruit. I mean, what is it?
Contrary to what a lot of folks think, okra is not a great big user of nitrogen. So a lot of times you can over-fertilize, and okra doesn't do. Okra's actually a weed in some parts of the nation.
Is it a hibiscus family, the okra? Is it just, the flowers look a lot like a...
Well, actually, it's in the cotton family, and I don't know exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where it's a weed at. When you get out into the cotton areas of the United States, they're having to, they have to fight that one. And since they're in the same family, that's kind of hard to.
I would think okra is probably one of those foods like black-eyed peas or crowder peas that no one ate them until we got hungry. And during the Civil War, Charleston was a huge producer of cowpeas, which is black-eyed peas thing. And we were out of food, and they ground it up, made cornbread out of it, and started eating it. And so basically now in the South, we like black-eyed peas and we like okra. People go from the North, eats okra and go, oh my gosh, I eat it pickled and fried. But the people up north go, if you ever have to cut it up, it's a little bit slimy.
We didn't have okra in Chicago.
Oh, no, Chicago, yeah.
I never saw it until I
You
was
didn't
in
have
Tennessee.
grits or good gravy or iced tea or anything up there, did you?
We had other things, good ethnic food.
Yeah.
And I bet they didn't eat poke salad up there.
Oh,
No.
no.
We didn't know what poke salad was.
Poke salad's the best if you get someplace where the cows or something go, because it fertilizes it. And I took a guy from Iowa. He'd moved down here. He was a chiropractor, and I cut him a big stalk of poke salad, and I didn't clean it or anything. I just cut the stalk right off and took it in, throw it on his table, and says, here's poke salad. And they looked at me and went, oh, okay. And I told them how to fix it. I said, but don't eat this part. It's poisonous. And they're looking at me. So I left, and I know that got thrown away.
I'd like to ask Kim, about a woodpecker. I have a woodpecker pecking in my honey house. And I heard that owls are predators of woodpeckers, so I need to get an owl. But they say they get used to that after a while.
They will, unless you move it around.
Okay.
That's the key, and that's with birds of any kind, trying to keep them. Whether you use the beach ball with the big eyes on it or whatever, it's if you leave it in the same spot, they will get used to it.
That's the best thing.
The other thing you might want to try is that they're very aggressive. So if somebody said if you hang a mirror of some sort up where it sees that other woodpecker, that it'll either quit doing what it's doing, or it might
break the mirror.
Yeah, or
7 years bad luck.
or leave. It might.
Thank you.
That's a.
What kind is it? Do you know?
It's a red-headed woodpecker.
There are a lot of those. I talked to a guy last night who seen one, and I've got one around my house, and I've got a lot of woodpeckers, different sizes, and you put those little soot things out, and you'll find woodpeckers everywhere. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't have nothing about food, but if anybody ever gets diarrhea, now this is the truth. You ever heard of boiled nettle root?
What kind of root?
Boiled nettle. It usually grows in pasture fields. It's got a little briar on it, and a little yellow berry on it.
Yeah.
Back in the 50s, our whole household had some kind of virus, and our aunt's brother. No, I got that wrong. My aunt's uncle was a old country doctor, Doc Lee. This is Pappy's brother.
Hey.
And she went out and gathered some boiled nettle root and had washed them off, and had us, each one of us, to chew the root and swallow the liquid, but not the root part, And it was real bitter. But next day or two, we was all out of bed, and I mean, we was sick. We was a sick family back on Nopone Road in northeast Bradley County, or northwest Bradley County, I guess.
Well, that's the first I've ever heard of that.
She said you could make it into tea and drink the tea, boil the roots and make a tea out of it. And but it's called, she called it boiled nettle. That's what I always knowed it by. I remember when I was a kid. But and my sister lived in Iowa, and she had it real bad. She was in a hospital and had diarrhea, and Daddy sent her some boiled nettle root, and she had her kids to boil bring it in there, and she chewed them roots, and she was out of the hospital in a day or two, but they couldn't stop the diarrhea. And but that's one of the best medicines for diarrhea I'd ever heard of in my life. You can just feel it soothing when you start chewing them roots and get that down in the stomach. And,
Diane is writing this down. This may be one of her new natural products at her bee place up here.
Ron, that's the only good thing I've ever heard about bull nettle right there.
That's the only thing I ever. I just thought it was an old nasty weed,
Oh, it's terrible when you get them out in the pasture field and the cows won't, the horses, nothing won't. Can't eat around them because of those thorns and things.
Yeah.
All right, so.
That's God honest truth, but that was one of the best. Every time we'd get diarrhea, Daddy'd go out and get some boiled nettle root, and we'd chew on that root a few minutes. He'd wash it off, and we'd just chew on it and swallow the juice, but spit the root out,
Well, how's Pappy doing today?
Well, Pappy, he's not feeling too good today. I called him a while ago, and he was listening to y'all, but
You and Pappy just need to get well and come in here and talk to us one day on Saturday morning.
Well, we will someday. If he hardly ever gets out, he's
Yeah, I know.
Jake.
Yeah, but you're just gonna have to load him up or whatever, and we'll carry him in here if we have to.
All righty.
All right. Thanks.
Y'all have a good day.
All right. Bye. Yeah, people used to take a lot of things like that, but I always want to know who the first person was that tried it.
Who was the person found that?
Yes, I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this. I'm gonna eat this. And what's that yellow flower out in the plant that makes the milk sour? There's something my wife was telling me. There's some kind of plant out in the fields at the if you was a dairy farmer, you didn't want that kind of weed out there. Had pretty little yellow flowers.
Mustard.
The only ones that I know is one blooming right now is Buttercup. That's the one's got the yellow bloom right now. But there's one that's called bitter sneezeweed. I'll bet that's the one she's talking about.
Yeah.
It's a little short growing plant that's got a yellow flower on the top of it.
Her dad helped run farms down the lower end of the county, and she grew up on the farms, and how many dairy farmers do we have now, Kim?
I believe we still have 10 dairies in operation,
and now that goes down a lot. 20 years ago, what do we have?
Well, I don't know. I moved back from Murfreesboro in 1983, and we had 45 at that point. So we have really decreased in the number.
Is it just they can't make a profit, or is there no one buys the milk, or what's the problem?
Well, several different things, but I think maybe urbanization's one of the things. When you start looking at the value of property, and even on top of that, you've got maybe children that don't stay on the farm, that are doctors or lawyers, or decide to go do another something, and you don't have anyone to take that farm over.
Well, like the Hannah boys down here, guys, just back generation.
Absolutely,
they're still going there.
But when property value gets real high, it's pretty hard to farm that high dollar land. Right. So farmers worked all his life, and land's increased in value, and some decide just to sell, and
someone comes up and offer you $1 million for that before you've been doing cows. They'd say, well, yeah, bye cows.
Absolutely.
And there's milk at now.
And just retire. They get to a certain age and decide that they want to do something, just like retirement with any other occupation. Just decide to need to do something else.
So I guess Hannah's, Haney's, Calfee's. Who else is still milking?
You got John Moore and Jack and Jim Moore that's up in Dry Valley Road, and then you've got Eddie Housley out on Georgetown, and Frank Calfee's over on the east side of town, and Howard Moore's down Lead Mine Road. So you still have those.
So that's just I'm glad we do have those guys, but it's part of our history that's going away. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hi, good morning.
Yes.
I'm just curious, have you guys ever tried the mushrooms close by the cow pastures?
The mushrooms in the cow pastures?
Yes, I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
You know anything about the mushrooms?
No, I don't. I don't know a whole lot about the wild mushrooms other than the ones that we grow on the oak limbs, the shiitake mushrooms. They're a flat mushroom though that actually you go in and you put that mushroom spawn on those oak logs and they grow. But
I used to go mushroom picking with an uncle up in Wisconsin, and you have to be real careful.
You do, yes.
Get a good identification book and make sure you're picking the right thing.
I'm just gonna. I don't like mushrooms anyway, so I'm not gonna go get them. Go ahead, caller.
I was going to tell you about the bees we had on the inside of our the wall on the outside, and they was coming inside. We had to kill them with gasoline.
You killed the bees with gasoline, okay.
Did you burn the house down?
But we got rid of the bees. Hey, today's my daughter's birthday. She's 46, but I know she can't hear you.
Well, happy birthday to her anyway. How's that?
Okay. I think she's going to get me an airplane ticket for next week.
All right. So where are you going to go dancing out there?
They ain't got no place unless I go to that Mexican place.
We got to do a little Latin dance.
All right. I just want to tell you that.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
We're talking about all these little critters out there help pollinate, and real quick, and I learned this the hard way too, because I tried to do some hydroponics one time, and I tried to grow some cucumbers. Great plants, didn't get a first cucumber in there. Then I realized that the cucumber plant has a male and a female flower, and the stuff from the male flower's got to get over to the female flower. Now, like a tomato plant is a multiple sexual
Unisex.
plant. Unisex. Thank you. I couldn't come up with a word there. I was going to say bisexual, and that was something else. But
Watch out.
this was just a tomato plant. Wind can come through and
Correct.
pollinate it,
Yeah.
or just something can bump it.
Yeah.
But a cucumber plant, something has to carry the pollen from here over to there.
Right.
So
Same thing with pumpkins. Same thing with watermelons. There's a
Okay.
male and a
Cantaloupe.
female.
cantaloupe. Okay.
The blossoms, I'm going to take this one. Blossoms will open up at 6 a.m. in the morning on pumpkins, cucumbers, watermelons. If it's not visited 8 to 12 times by a pollinator, that blossom will fall off and no fruit will form. I'll go out in the fields at 10 o'clock. The blossoms are 99% closed up, and that's its opportunity. So if it's not visited by pollinators that number of times, no fruit will be formed.
So then what all plants are unisex? I mean, which ones are and are not?
Corn's a self-pollinator.
Corn, yeah, wind pollinated. There's probably corn and tomatoes are the two that we see more often. But anything in that cucurbit family,
Right.
Anything in the melon crops or anything like that, they have to be. And we get calls all the time at the extension office. Well, I've got blooms all over my plants, but I don't have any. No fruit, and that's because those male blooms will open before the females do, and that way you've got pollen to pollinate those female flowers with.
So I read in those hydroponic books, like they read about it, you had to take your paintbrush, the paintbrush, and go over there and do the flowers. I'm going, I said, this is perverted. I'm sitting here.
You're just spreading the pollen.
Spreading the pollen around everything. But now, how does the bees and the insects know to go from this flower? Is it just
They don't.
It just happens.
It just happens. They don't know what they're doing when they're pollinating. They're going for food. They're going for their benefits for the colony. They have no clue that they're actually pollinating and producing fruit.
So if the bee comes in from the right and this is the female and the male's on the right, he's going to go this way, and it didn't happen. But you had to have the bee come from this way.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I was just at Apple Valley the other day. We were looking at the trees getting pollinated, and they move fast. The bees go from blossom to blossom very quickly. They get a little pollen on them in one blossom. They go to another blossom and spread it. They have no clue what they're doing. They're just going to bring pollen back to the colony because apples don't give off nectar. So, yeah.
And that's a real important key, especially like at Apple Valley, because we have certain crops that have to be cross-pollinated.
Right.
Some are self-pollinating or self-fruitful. If the bee works that blossom, it'll pollinate it. But you have certain varieties like Stamen winesap, for example. I think they're sterile, so they have to have another apple variety like
Right.
Golden Delicious or Red Delicious or Granny Smith or
Right.
something to actually, that bee has to work another variety and then come pollinate that Stamen winesap, or it doesn't have an apple. Jonagold is another one that really needs to be cross-pollinated, because Jonagold is a cross between Jonathan and Golden Delicious. Well, Golden Delicious is not a good pollinator of Jonagold because that's one of the parents. So you need Red Romes or any of the other 30 some odd varieties they
Yeah,
have
Chuck
out there
actually
to-
has pollinating trees just for pollination.
And
Just to spread.
occasionally he had, and I don't know whether he still does, but one year he went in and actually put crabapple
Yes,
trees
that's what I'm
inside.
talking about,
And
crabapples.
those they keep those pruned back to where the limbs don't get very long, so they don't take up a lot of space. But they're there for pollinators, and they work really, really well.
Apples are real interesting because in the cluster of blossoms on an apple tree, the king bloom is the first one to open up, and that's the one that's going to produce the biggest fruit. There's 4 more blossoms in that cluster, and they will produce a smaller fruit. So what they want is that king bloom to be pollinated, and they will actually try to knock off those other blossoms, those other fruits from forming, so they get a good size apple. If they let them all bloom, Chuck said that next year the tree won't blossom. If they let them all produce fruit.
So we thought they just planted trees and go picked them and made money, right? That's not the way it happens.
No.
plus all that weight on those trees will break limbs and
Right.
do things. I know when Chuck's dad I was learning, and or trying to learn when I was first came back, and he was actually out thinning apples, and there was a limb about 36 inches long, and I jumped in front of him before he got there thinning, and there was 32 apples on that limb that I went through and counted in those clusters and everything.
Wow.
And I watched him, and he come up and he thinned that limb, and I went back and counted. He left 2 apples on that limb.
Wow.
He left one about midway, and then he had left one out at the tip end. And, the ground's just covered with apples when they thin. And I asked him, I said, here you've taken 30. I told him what I'd counted. I said, you've knocked off 30 apples. And he said, yeah, if I leave those, he said, they'll be the size of golf balls. He said, I can sell softballs a whole lot easier than I can sell golf balls.
Yeah.
And that's,
Nowadays, they spray an acid on the tree, and the king bloom has a thicker stem than the other blossoms in that cluster. And that acid will eat through those smaller blossoms, but won't affect the king bloom.
And the timing's real critical on that, and and I'll occasionally talk to Chuck, and after he's done that, and he said, I got my acid too strong. He said I thin my crop too much, but sometimes it's kind of I guess it's a gamble, just like farming is,
When we have extremely wet conditions or we have droughts, I know that, how does that affect plants either way, and then how does it affect the bees?
I probably make more honey when there's a drought.
Oh, really? I thought it would be the other way around.
Well, the bees don't work in the rain. They stay home and they eat.
I don't either. I don't work in the dry either, come to think of it, But yeah, so when it's raining, they just stay in.
They stay in and they eat. They eat my crop.
Oh, so
yeah,
okay.
And when you've got a good-sized colony, they can eat a lot fast. So everything that they've stored, they're consuming.
So extremely wet spring is really terrible, right?
Really, I do not like wet. Yeah.
And so, but the drier the better.
Yes.
And for the crops, it's almost the other way.
Well, it's not. The plant's going to try to reproduce regardless, and sometimes if we have dry weather, the fruit's not as large, or it doesn't. It'll drop. Sometimes the plant will drop some fruit.
Yeah. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, hey, Ron.
Hey.
I have a question for attracting bees to a garden. What I did last year, and I don't know if it helped or not, in backyard garden, I've got an area that's about 30 by 30 beside my garden that I didn't cut, and it's just clover and dandelions and everything else. The thought was maybe that would draw some bees to the area at least. Maybe they,
well, the bees have to be there to attract them, whether or not you have any local beekeepers or wild swarms in the woods, is a factor. We can't treat the wild bees. We can only treat what's in our colonies. Right. So unfortunately, there's not as many wild bees out there. Again, you do have other pollinators, but planting things is a good thing if the bees are around. If they live, bees will generally fly a half a mile to a mile.
Okay.
To forage.
I've got bumblebees and I've seen some honeybees around. Seemed like I was out cutting my grass yesterday. My blueberry bushes are just covered in bumblebees. So I guess they're going to be the pollinators for me there.
Mm-hmm. They do love clover, buckwheat. There are some things that are repellents for bees, such as marigolds.
Right.
So
I'm just sort of letting that one little patch just sort of grow wild, I guess, and just whatever pops up. Like I said, it's right beside the garden, and it seemed like my garden was better last year, but it could have been something else. I mean, I can't say it was just because I did draw some bees, but normally there seems to be a lot around there, but I don't know if there was anything else I could do to maybe help attract bees.
Yeah. Kim, do you have any other ideas?
No, not.
Let me ask you a question.
Not really.
If you said earlier that the bees are opportunists, so if the clover is more appealing, would that? So if you put too much out there, they'd spend all their time in the clover, and the heck with the non.
They could, but if you mow it in between, they're going to look for other things. All bees in one colony won't all go to clover. They will stick with one plant, but they all don't go to the same thing. Most of them can. The blossoms in our garden really aren't that prolific. They're limited time, and so they will attract them for a short amount of time. But you want bees to be around. In the fall, I always try to tell people, when you have all those weeds, goldenrod and other things in bloom that are giving off nectar, that's a good thing for all of our insects. They all need nectar to survive on. So don't mow that down until it's spent, until it's dead and not giving off any more nectar, because we do have a lot of insects out there that do need, all that nourishment from the plants.
Okay. Well, that helps a little bit. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So what other insects actually help pollinate that go up on the plant that doesn't eat the plant?
That doesn't eat the plant.
Yeah, so the ones that eat the plant, that big white hookworm, God, that thing can eat a plant in a day, can't it?
Yeah. No, most of the time, insects like that don't do a lot of pollination. It's the bumblebees, the
butterflies.
honeybees, butterflies will. There's also some of the little flies that, and I can't remember exactly what the correct name of them is, but that fly around the corn. We always call them corn tassel flies because that's what they fly around. Mm-hmm. But corn's a little different in it being wind pollinated, and the pollen hits the silks, and that's one of the questions that we had in Master Gardeners. Why do we have vacant kernels? And you're eating an ear of corn, and it's because pollen didn't land on that silk and travel down and pollinate that. Each one of those silks, the pollen has to come down and pollinate each one of those seeds of corn.
So every little kernel of corn has a silk to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like a lopsided apple. It didn't get pollinated enough.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets pollinated enough, you'll have a nice full-size round apple. If it doesn't get pollinated, you'll see the lopsidedness.
And every year you move your bees to other locations too. Is that true?
I do, for pollination or for nectar sources.
Now, you hear that's good Tennessee sourwood honey.
Right.
Now, is that any different than the pollinated apple honey or the wildflower honey, or is it really different?
It is different. Okay. Different taste. It's got a uniqueness all its own. It's like a different experience eating sourwood honey. It's considered a mild honey because it's light in color, but it hasn't. I consider it like candy. When I'm in the honey house working and I taste some sourwood honey, it's just like eating candy. It's good stuff.
So now you take your bees up
to Turtletown. I have a gentleman by the name of Dale Snyder, and he has a beautiful property, and every year I move my bees up there for the sourwood crop. Sourwood is a guessing game. You never know if you're going to make it because we get those strong summer storms that come through and knock the blossoms off. Once the blossoms are off the trees, that's it. The flow is over. It's a lot more work. I have to travel very far distances and work a lot harder to make sourwood. So we have to charge a little bit more for it. So it's worth it, though. It's an awesome honey.
So you have what is the brands or the flavors or
varieties? Right. Well, the one varietal honey that I have is sourwood. The other two that I have are more conglomerations. I call them wildflower because I can't identify a particular variety as being dominant. Okay. And then the other one I have is spring blossom. Again, the blossoms in the spring, clover, blackberry, just the different things, maple.
You like the sourwood the best?
I like wildflower because it's got a stronger flavor to it. Do. But I like them all. They're all good. They're all awesome honeys. But wildflower and sourwood.
So they went to ragweed and dandelions, and so the bees just wherever they get the nectar and they make something good out of it.
That's right. They bring nectar is mostly water. They bring it back. They store it in the comb, and then they work at evaporating the excess water that's in the nectar, and they add their enzymes, and that's what gives it all the good benefits.
What causes the different colors? I know clover will be a darker color than
no. Actually, clover's a light honey. Clover's,
okay.
But clover's one of the quickest ones to crystallize.
Okay.
The nectar source. Every nectar gives off a different flavor, a different color. Poplar honey is a dark red. It's a beautiful dark red honey. A real strong taste to it, but it's won't crystallize very quickly at all. I had a jar for, I think, 6 years under the cabinet, and it never crystallized. But now that field where I used to get poplar from, the farmer has clover in there now, so I'm making more clover in that area. But yeah, we're subject to weather. We're subject to a lot of different things, whether or not we produce a good crop. And sourwood, like I said, you're lucky if you make it. I don't count my sourwood until it's in the honey house in the supers. Then I know if I've gotten a good crop or not.
From an agricultural standpoint, Bradley County is probably not as big as an agricultural center as it was in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s here. You know, we used to have Gillian's Peach Orchard out here, which people come from miles and miles, and I remember living out in that area growing up, and you couldn't get in there. Of course, that doesn't operate now. So, who's our big producers of? I mean, do we have? We really don't have any huge producers of crops in Bradley County or in this area. I mean, who really does? Who does what now?
Well, surprisingly, Ron.
I'll say I'm going to be corrected here.
Bradley County is the third largest agricultural producer in the state of Tennessee.
I did not know.
Over $100 million a year.
And of course, and we've reduced tremendously in the last 40 years.
But you can probably guess where way over half of that ag income comes from one industry, poultry.
Oh, okay.
Where our location is. So as far as animal and fruit and vegetable all together, Bradley County has over $100 million ag income. But poultry, we're number 2. Bedford County, which has Tyson, is ahead of us.
Sure.
We're number 2 in the state in poultry production. But as far as fruit and vegetables and things like that, probably Apple Valley as far as tree fruit. Michael Brown up in Charleston is a large producer of vegetable crops.
Boy, I tell you, he grows some okra up there. You go up there to his, and they're just fields of okra, and I'm going, and the blossoms are just beautiful up there too. And so
Michael started in fruits and vegetables several years ago. Mike's always been a fairly large tobacco producer,
right.
And then when all the controversy with tobacco and everything started, he decided to diversify. But yet he is still a very large tobacco producer also. Right. But he does a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then you've got Marcy's vineyard there in Charleston that has muscadines and blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and grapes. They've got several acres there. Probably 25, 30 acres maybe. And
that'd be a big haven for bees. Or is that the type of stuff bees like?
I think grapes do need pollination, but I've never had a call for pollination for grapes.
And muscadines too up there. Muscadines are a little different. We were talking about. Yeah. They have 2 types of flowers. They're on the same plant, but they're not separate. But certain muscadines have what we call a perfect flower that's got the stamens and the pistil and everything. Some only has a female flower, so they have to be cross-pollinated. Gentleman came in my office and he said, I've got 5 muscadine vines. I've never had muscadine on them. And so I start asking questions and find out that, the varieties, and we start looking at varieties. Every one that he had a female flower. So he said, what do I do? And I said, you go get you one of these with a perfect flower. And I said, it'll pollinate the others.
It'll pollinate the others, right.
Yeah, the insects will carry the pollen over. And
so I never thought about the cross-pollination being important.
Oh, it's critical in certain crops.
Tobacco farming, is Brown the only one now? It really does any?
Probably is.
McMinn County has a lot. My brother-in-law does has a greenhouse and does the plants up there. The Carter, Bobby, Brent Carter now. Bobby's dead, but they had a big tobacco thing, and tobacco has went down tremendously.
And you get up in upper East Tennessee, Greene County, and that area up there produce quite a bit, and then Monroe County still has quite a bit of tobacco.
Go out west Tennessee, and you'll go out and you'll see a lot of those tobacco barns and the smoke, and it's sort of a pretty area you go through.
That's that flue cured tobacco. That's a different type of tobacco. Mainly burley is what's grown here, but you get into those areas that's growing those flue cured tobaccos, and what that does is it gives tobacco a different taste and all that kind of stuff when they blend it together.
Dustin, you was talking about eczema and stuff like that, and I have some right here top of my head all the time. And I use her soap. You want to ask her about what's the best thing to do to fix that stuff there? I mean, what?
Yeah, or what quality is it that makes it good for skin? Is it
any handcrafted soap maker will tell you that handcrafted soap clears up eczema. It doesn't cure it; it clears it up. It has to do with the oils that we make soap out of. I don't use animal fats. My soaps are all natural. I use soybean oil, olive oil, coconut oil, and castor oil, and all those are good moisturizing oils. And for whatever reason, you don't need to take medication for eczema. Just use the right kind of skincare. I don't have any preservatives, nothing synthetic in my products, and any of my body balm, my lip balm. So, good oils.
Yeah, you can't cure eczema. It's sort of, and I have it right here on top of my head. And when I use your soap, it clears up. It'll come back when I stop using it, though.
Yes.
And regular shampoo just irritates the devil out of it. Good morning, live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, you mentioned muscadine just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I was curious about the wild muscadine yield last year. In other words, where I was and where they had always been years before, there were none. I mean, I couldn't find any, and I just wondered what you could attribute that to, or if I was just in the wrong places.
Ron, could have been a late frost last spring, and I think that has a lot to do with some of the crops if they've bloomed by that time. Now, table grapes like Concord and Niagara and some of the others, and I learned this several years ago, that they can bloom they have secondary blooms. They can bloom a second time. But muscadines, I don't think has that ability. I think once that bloom is, it's cold weathers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be frost. It could just be cold weather. There's certain temperatures that fruit crops can take, and then certain temperatures they get killed at.
Okay, well, maybe it'll be a good yield this year. I just enjoy going to the mountains and getting some of the wild ones. And I guess I like a muscadine flavor better than anything in the grape family. I assume it's in the grape family, and there is absolutely no better jelly or jam.
They have a unique taste, that's for sure.
I like them. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, before we get out here, definitely go ahead about the soaps there. So it's good for shampoo or
absolutely head to toe. To toe. Use it face, body, all natural, no preservatives. When it comes to taking care of your skin, there's a woman who wrote a book called Don't Go to the Cosmetics Counter Without Me, and she recommends sunscreen, drink plenty of water, have a good diet, and moisturize. Those are all the things that we need to do for our skin. Moisturizing is a big deal, especially in the summertime when you're wearing flip-flops and things. You get dried out. You've got to take care of the skin and just moisturize. And using the handcrafted soaps with the good oils in it is one way to do that as well. When you put a lotion on or something and it burns your skin, what does that tell you? Something in it is irritating you. The soaps that they make now in the stores, they can't even call them soap. A soap is a chemical reaction between a fatty acid and an alkali, and it's that combination creates soap. Well, the soap that they make in the stores are made from detergents. After one of the world wars, we had a shortage of oils. So Germany introduced detergents to the United States. So that's what they started making soap out of. And that's what they're still making soap out of. And now the FDA has stopped them from calling them soaps because they're not true soap. They call them now a bath bar or a beauty bar or a deodorant bar because they can't have the word soap on the label. My soap is lye soap. It may not look like the typical lye soap that you've seen in the past. Mine is just scented and colored. That's the only difference. I have botanicals in the soap that help it as an exfoliant to scruff off dead skin cells on your skin. So, it's going back to the good things.
You told me to get one of those little, I call it a soap sock.
Soap sacks, yeah, they're great.
And put it, and it'll last long. If you have it out, the water tends to break it up faster.
Any soap, you don't want to let it sit in water. You want it to, after you use it, be in a dry spot. Water will just make it use up faster. These soaps, are a little more expensive, but they're well worth it.
Oh, they are very well worth it. And like I say, and I had just ran out, and you brought me one here, so I'm just going, yes. So, let me ask you a question about planting here.
Okay.
I've heard that coffee grounds is good for plants. Now, someone said that it provides nitrogen, and then the worms like it too.
Well, the worms, I think, would be the best.
So the coffee by itself without worms is no good.
Well, if you put coffee grounds out there, you will attract earthworms. There's something about that they absolutely love. As far as the chemical makeup or the nutrient value of coffee grounds. I don't know. It's kind of like wood ashes. Can I put wood ashes on my garden? Sure you can, and I'm sure there's calcium and other nutrients in there, but I don't know that we've
It's probably
got
not going to have a negative effect, I wouldn't think.
I don't know that we've got a nutrient analysis for wood
What if
ashes.
you use planters? Should you put worms in your planters?
Sure.
Okay.
Anything to aerate the soil and keep the soil worked up.
And then the worm also poops, and which helps makes the plant grow, right?
Wow,
It's sort of a compost
I'm
thing.
sure it's a win-win situation.
Win-win situation there. Don't put that root in there though, because it will stop the worm. But now, composting.
Yes.
You know, what should you put in your compost stuff, and can you just take like the leftover apple, grind it all up, and just put it in the ground, or do you have to compost it first?
It's better to compost it, and that way you've got a more uniform material when you use it in your garden. The things that probably you can put pretty much anything in a compost pile. Things that you don't want to put in is kitchen scraps like meat scraps or anything that'll attract critters or rodents or
And what about
possums and I wouldn't want to put any diseased plants like your old tomato plants or something like that. Don't put those in because it's probably going to have some blights or some leaf
What
spot
about
diseases.
the grass clippings? Is that good? Or I always worry about does the seeds off the grass, would that not help put weeds back into your garden or something?
Most of the time, you mow your grass early enough to where
No.
those seeds. Oh, okay.
No.
If they're mature seeds, they would cause problems.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they're not. They're the seed heads have formed and everything, but those seeds are not mature, and they'll compost like
But
everything.
that is just it's going to compost, and that's just a lot of filler, though, right?
Yeah.
Where do you get the most nutrients out of your composting?
Probably the greens that you put in that that you've got the nitrogens and the carbons that you put in, and most of the browns are the carbon type, and the greens will be the nitrogen. So grass clippings would be good. You'll get a lot of nutrients from.
What about citrus?
There would be some benefit to that too. Yeah.
Eggshells.
Eggshells are good. Calcium.
Good.
Yep.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
The gorgeous, intelligent female, where can I buy her soap? I live in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Well, I tell you, gorgeous,
intelligent,
yeah.
Thank you.
Wait, she's smiling too
Thank
big
you.
now.
I'm blushing.
Go ahead.
I have it at Abundant Living, Cook's Food Store, Varnell Nursery, and when Apple Valley opens up, I'll have it at Apple Valley.
And then you, on your website, honeybeesrock.com, a beautiful website, by the way. Go there, and you can order direct, and you can go pick it up, or she can ship it. If you want to come pick it up, you don't pay shipping, right?
That's right.
You're up on Old Federal Road. Take a right off 64, and it's down about a half mile on the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she.
White House on the right.
No, it's a red brick house with a big green roofed building behind it. That's the Honey House.
Okay, well, I'm just from Greasy Creek, so I thought I knew those roads. All right, well, I'm getting some of your soap because being 50, I believe in everything you're saying about the skin, and women spend so much money on cosmetics.
That's right.
So I believe, everything you're saying, so I'm going to purchase some of your stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
have used her soap, and it does work. I will testify.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen you. No, I wouldn't be that testifying.
Was I just insulted? I don't know.
We can only imagine what Ron would look like if it wasn't for the beautifying factor of
That's
her
right.
soap, wouldn't it?
Hey, Lisa, thanks for helping us farmers out here in Bradley County, because, some of us want to keep it going.
And we're proud of you.
All right, ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Well, wind it up. You got anything we'll say? Master Gardener class comes up next January. And if people want to get their soil tested, what do they do?
They can give us a call at the extension office or come by. We've got soil sample kits and information sheets, and they put the soil in a box and send it to the soil.
How much does that cost? Is there a cost to it? Or
$7.
Okay.
$7.
That's
They'll
a
tell
great
you,
deal.
They'll tell you nutrient content. They'll also send you a form and give you recommendations for whatever crop you put on there that you want to grow.
Now, in your office, you tell people exactly what you can do for local people. And what does your office do?
Basically, what the extension is an information source for pretty much whatever that you're doing. As far if it has to do with agriculture, somebody come in. We was talking about worms a while ago. Somebody come in and wanted to build a worm bed, and we fished around and finally found a plan on how to build a worm bed the other day. So we've got farm plans, information about pretty much anything as far as agriculture goes, home horticulture, field crops. And then, of course, we also do 4-H at the office, and Family and Consumer Sciences. Kay Smith's there that does that. And then Community Resource Development,
I
Farmers
won my
Market,
4-H
and Candy.
speech contest.
You did?
Yes, 4th grade.
The other thing I want to mention is we've done a renovation to the cannery. The folks that use that will see a brand new facility pretty much this
That's
year, and
super.
so we'll try to open it up maybe in June.
One final question: soap water. The soap in there has potassium. Is that good for plants or not? Or potassium? Is that true?
It's not detrimental. I mean, you can use it, and it the plants can take it up. Once those nutrients get in the soil, the plant roots will take them up, regardless of what the source is. We get calls, which is better, commercial fertilizer or organic fertilizer. Well, the plant can't tell the difference. Kind of like the bees on the blooms. The plant roots will take the nutrients up regardless.
How do you find your number in the book? What's it listed under?
Bradley County Government.
Bradley County
We
Government.
should be the first one. Ag Extension.
All
I
right.
think we still have that in there. 728-7001.
All right. And honeybeesrock.com. Tell us what they'll see and what they need to buy and everything, right?
Well, we'll hopefully have a good honey crop this year, so we'll have lots of honey and all natural skincare. One thing I would like to mention is use insecticides wisely. If you spray your grass and there's blossoms in your grass like clover or dandelion, you will kill pollinators, not just honeybees, other things too. So use insecticides wisely.
Okay, let's get this one last call. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Ron, did the lady say that she could buy her soap at Cook's?
Yes.
Yes, at Cook's, yes.
Okay, thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
Don't forget my song, babe.
I've got it loaded and ready to go. It's go right after all the commercials that comes on. You're in there, John Anderson, swanging.
Oh, you're a lovely man.
Oh, I know it.
Where's my John at?
John's at home asleep.
What happened down there at the station?
They decided to do something different.
Oh, okay, it sounds like it. They got the boss back down there, I see.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So, honeybees.rock, Bradley County Ags, and get to them. Dusty, you got anything to say? You learned anything
Very
today?
interesting show. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'll be getting somebody to kill some groundhogs and some soap before it's over with. So
Yeah.
He was a lot quieter today than Debbie is.
Oh, yeah. But, hey, it was so amazing. I'm just sitting here and listening to you
yeah,
guys.
my ears were on tune today. I'm just
And
listening.
It was
just
great.
hanging out.
And just thank you both, Diane Raven and Kim Frady. As always, I'll close the show by saying you've got to preserve the history of our communities. And your dad may have been a farmer, may have been a beekeeper. If you have old pictures of it, you need to get them out and write their names on it. If you don't preserve this history, no one will. We'll always know about Pearl Harbor, but we may not know what happened down your street in your family. And you'll be amazed what an old photo, what memories you can bring back to someone you don't even know. Your grandfather may have worked with someone. Get out your cell phone and take a picture of your grandpa. Record them talking. One of my favorite things is my grandfather, my cousin, recorded him talking for about 45 minutes, and he talked about his father and his grandfather, and and to hear his voice again is just amazing. So, I challenge you to do that. Next week we're going to be talking about Copper Hill and what happened to all the trees and all the grass and everything else. And Ken Rush from the Copper Hill Museum will be here. And the museum's been there 30 years. And then after that, the next week, the one and only people from Lake Winnie are coming up to talk to us.
Wow.
So if you ever went to Lake Winnie, which most of us have,
Absolutely.
we got some great stories. Hey, we'll see you next week, folks, here on Old Town Cleveland.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.